To start off 2018, I decided to play a really good game. A really, really good game. Cuphead, on PC. The original idea for this game always interested me, but when watching a friend of mine by the name of Samniac play it, well, I decided I absolutely needed to review this game. So I bought it as a Christmas present to myself, and really found it fun to play. But before I start gushing uncontrollably, let's just go into the review. Cuphead is the story of Cuphead and, in two-player mode, his brother Mugman, who go to a casino and keep winning. They are offered a final bet. They win, and they earn all the money in the casino. Lose, and their souls belong to the proprietor of the casino, who happens to be no other than Satan himself. Foolishly, Cuphead rolls again, and of course he loses. They plead for their lives, and the devil gives them a task to fulfill for their souls. They need to hunt down a list of beings that owe the devil their souls. By doing this, Cuphead and Mugman will be freed from their wager. And so the game starts. What essentially comes down to is a massive boss rush. The game takes place on 3 islands, with each having its own world map and set of bosses. You can take on the bosses on each island in any order, but can't progress to the next island without taking out all of the enemies. I'll get to the bosses in a bit, but there's other things to do if you want to get a bit more powerful first. For one, there are 2 side-scrolling run and gun levels on each island. In each of these are 5 coins. These coins can be exchanged in our shop that is in each act. Although the goods in each shop are the same, as the same creepy pig guy runs it, it's nice that you don't have to run between different maps just to purchase something you may have found earlier in the game. Upon buying power-ups, others will take their place, so the more powerful might not appear till later in the game. There are enough coins in both these stages and also hidden on the map to be able to purchase all the upgrades in a single playthrough. As for the run and gun stages themselves, they play like your standard Contra-like stage. You run from the left all the way to the right, shooting any enemies that you may run across, with the occasional more difficult baddie stopping your way or at least slowing you down. There are no actual bosses in these stages, so once you reach the end flag, the stage is completed. If you missed any coins, you can replay them as you see fit. But let's move on to the meat of the game. The bosses. The boss stages feature a single boss, and each has multiple phases. You have infinite lives, and failing just forces you to start the boss from the beginning. To assist you with combating the enemies, you also have the choice between 2 different shot types, a special move, and a passive ability. There's a total of 6 different bullet types that you can choose from, although I tended to prefer the weaker shot that has a homing ability, and the short range but extremely powerful spread shot. As for the passive abilities, I tended to prefer the ones that gave me more health, although this has the drawback of decreasing your attack power. I was tempted to use the one that continually increases your special meter, but I didn't have to worry about that as much. As for the special attack, I tended to alternate between a very limited invulnerability and a massively damaging beam attack. Obviously, you may decide to opt with different skills, all based on your playstyle. But here's how the game is laid out. You start with a boss, and Cuphead, or Mugman, starts with 3 HP. With every bullet that strikes, you charge your special meter. You can use the special meter at any time, with each blast using up a single card, and this blast throwing a more powerful version of your current weapon. If you max out your special meter, which is 5 cards total, then you just use your special ability. These abilities are unlocked by defending an urn in a simple game where you have to scare away a bunch of ghosts by smacking them with your parry. More on that shortly. But anyway, the bosses are typically based on one screen. They start off easily enough, but after you start getting to the later phases, the bosses tend to border on nightmarish. Although truthfully, I didn't find the game to be as hard as everyone seems to have claimed it to be. Maybe I was just good at memorizing patterns. Maybe it was just my extra health benefit. But either way, I was typically able to defeat the bosses within just a few attempts. There were, of course, a few exceptions, such as that damn dragon, the queen bee, and the sunflower. Anyway, not all projectiles the enemies throw are entirely harmful. You will encounter pink ones in addition to the standard colored shots. If you jump and then hit jump again as you reach that shot, you'll parry it. This will not only dodge damage, but it will also charge a full card unit for your special meter, allowing you to throw a special shot much quicker, and more often if you can get the timing down quickly. Now, I mentioned that each boss has different phases. Once the creature reaches a certain damage threshold, they move on to their next attack segment. Sometimes these are obvious, but not always. If you die, then you'll be shown a progress bar, detailing how close you were on defeating the enemy you were fighting. There's also flags on this bar, showing each phase of the battle. You can use this to see how much more of a fight is remaining after the phase you were just on. Not all bosses are constrained to the ground. There are a few fights where you'll be flying a small plane in a horizontally scrolling stage. These battles more resemble bullet hell shooters, but surprisingly I found them to be easier. Instead of your standard shots, you'll get regular bullets and bombs. Your special attack is simply turning into a bomb that puts the hurt on whatever it touches. You can also decrease the size of the plane, but this also decreases the attack range and power of your shots. One thing I will say is that there is a heavy variety on the enemies you fight. None of them are identical, or even similar. With this, you just want to keep playing to see what the next creature is. And just when you think you've seen all the game has to challenge you with, you reach that final area, the casino. The manager, King Dice, then fights you before you go to see the devil. These battles are different than every other. It resembles something almost like a board game. You have to parry the dice to move that many spots, and if you land on anything other than a safe spot, then you have to battle an enemy. All of these bosses are casino themed, although as a whole, they're not as bad as the main set of enemies. Once all of this is done, you get to fight King Dice, and then finally move on to the devil. I won't spoil the ending to you, as it's pretty fun to watch. By now, I'm sure you've noticed the graphical and musical style. It's all based from older 1930s animation, and the game's music helps that feeling. Everything is colored well, superbly detailed, and you'll even see film grain throughout the entire game. Although you can turn this off in the options. What blew me away the most was just the large bosses and their detail level, along with the great fluid animation that accompanies everything. For such a simple theme, Cuphead is an incredibly fun game. Sure, I might not have been challenged as I had expected, but I will say that once you complete the game, you unlock a hard mode. And this one is a kick in the balls. Even the easiest bosses have a much harder attack pattern, and the more frustrating bosses now turn into ungodly battles that will test your reflexes and sanity. But even so, I'm still going to try finishing the game again. The only complaint I really have is that it's short. If you're really good at the game, you can probably complete it in about 2 hours. But for $20, it's not really a complaint because it still has a lot of replayability. So to recap, Cuphead is a must-play. It's something that you can easily pick up and play, quit when mad, and then go back to later without worrying about story or controls. I would just recommend a controller when you attempt this one. Preferably something durable. Final score? 10 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.